Warframe, what is it? It is a third-person action shooter set in a sci-fi universe where players pilot mechanized combat suits, or Warframes, through single or multiplayer missions in a never-ending quest for more and more loot, until everyone becomes the best biomechanical space ninja in the universe. And I'm only half joking about that. I suppose the unique selling point of Warframe is it's got a very unusual aesthetic. Everything looks somewhat organic, like it's kind of alive. It's fun, fast, moment-to-moment gameplay, and also it's free to play and fair business model. In recent years, Warframe has become something of a poster child for free-to-play gaming and an example of how the business model can work when applied with careful thought and consideration. The game's seen a surge of interest recently after the launch of its Plains of Eidolon expansion, which added a large open world zone for the first time where players can quest and interact together in a shared social space. MMO Lite is the term that's being applied to this new phase in the game's evolution. So what is the game like in 2018, and should you jump on board at this stage? Yes, I think you should. If you like action, space ninjas, and shooty gameplay, and who doesn't like those things? But it's not an unqualified yes. I'm going to go into some of the issues that I feel might be a barrier for entry and give pause for thought. But at its core, the gameplay is really good. The Warframes control really well and are fun to play. Within an hour or so, you'll be jumping and sliding and wall running along things. Along the walls, you've got really good range of movement and it feels really cool to control. You're breaking out swords in melee combat, then switching to rifles and sniping people across the map. That core gameplay experience is really good, and that's what's at the heart of Warframe. And besides all the other considerations about that I'm going to go into, at its core, that is a really fun experience and never really gets old. And I'm not sure how you would describe it. It's kind of a mix between something like Gears of War, the shooting in Gears of War, and the hack and slash of something like Bayonetta. The game is structured in such a way that you have a personal starship and you select missions like survival, assassination, rescue, all with slightly different game mechanics, but contained maps that you drop into. You have a mission that you have to fulfill, extract a hostage, or survive against waves of enemies. Quite a varied range of missions, but through the completion of those you unlock new regions of space with new challenges, more and more difficult missions with better and better rewards. And I suppose that's it, isn't it? Rinse and repeat, you would think. Simple. So this is where my first qualification comes in, and that there's a disconnect between what you think the game is initially and what it actually is. It's not about progressing through those missions. I mean, it is and it isn't, but it's actually about the loot that you get from those missions. Your progression in the game is tied to the kind of loot you get, and the loot is accessed by progressing through the mission structure of the game. But if, for example, you decide you're starting Warframe and you're fine with the weapons you have, you just want to run through the levels, well, you can't really do that beyond a certain point. Your progress, your mastery level, is tied to the level of the weapons and Warframes you're using, which are crafted from loot, which you have to grind to get. And I do mean you have to grind. To get all the blueprints I needed for my second Warframe, for instance, I had to kill the final boss on Venus 20 plus times. And even then, I only had the blueprints. Those blueprints require resources, and they start to drop from subsequent missions. In short, you have to grind for those as well. So it's about loot, and it's about getting that loot, kind of. And I say this is my first qualification in recommending Warframe because, frankly, the developers do a piss poor job of explaining any of this to you, even after 5 years of development. And perhaps because of those 5 years of development, there are systems built on systems built on systems. And the game has been truly kind of evolving over time. And to say it's confusing at the start, would be an understatement. I was very confused by this, and I freely admit to my own idiocy. But I'd been playing the game for about 10 hours before this loot-based progression really clicked in for me. And I found myself kind of forget about the star map. It's ultimately nothing except a graphical overlay under which the loot progression system exists. In my opinion, the star maps and the space routes that you travel to get to the various missions kind of obfuscate rather than illuminate what you're supposed to be doing. They have you zigzagging between stargates and things, seemingly doubling back sometimes. I don't know, because space is complicated. But for instance, knowing that Mars is unlocked via a stargate on Venus is not actually the information you need. What you need to know is which boss drops the blueprint I need for my next Warframe, because that's the progression. It's not the next mission. That's what you need to know, because it's the loot that will have you progressing, and nowhere does the game tell you that. So you're off to Wikipedia to find that information. And I'm mentioning this not because I feel it should be changed necessarily. Too many games kind of lead you by the hand and treat player agency as a dangerous thing, but it is an example of the steep learning curve for new players. I mentioned the grind, and I believe that is another potential barrier for new players. It is a long grind, and you can view that one of two ways. It's either a challenge to truly engage and learn the game, or perhaps a cynical attempt to get you to spend money on platinum, which is the game's premium currency, and you buy that with real money to bypass the grind entirely. And in all honesty, it's probably, in my opinion, a bit of both. The game avoids accusations of pay to win by making everything ultimately attainable without platinum, with the exception of certain cosmetic items, and by making platinum tradable with other players. The latter solution seems only partially successful to me as an alternative. In reality, the implementation is clunky and obtuse, like how do I trade, where do I trade, what is the random mod I just got as a drop worth to another player, because there's no stock market to check the value of anything. And if in-game trading is the alternative to spending real money, then why make it so hard to get into when an auction house would solve many of these problems? The answer is probably because this would be of little benefit to digital extremes. If in-game trading were easier, more people would do it, meaning less real-world money spent in the cash shop. And I feel in this case, that's fine. You know, like companies trying to make money, that should not always lead to moral outrage. And the fact is, Warframe provides a highly polished, fun core experience with plenty of side activities, like I haven't even touched on PvP, higher level content, Eidolon, the open world there and everything that you can find on that planet, or the chance to outfit your space ninja with wings at one point, which changes the mechanics of the game. Suddenly you're on kind of like an on-rail shooter flying through spaceships and stuff. It's pretty cool what they've added to this game and everything over time. So I think kind of digital extremes in this game deserves a little bit of your money for everything they're offering for free, you know, just to say thank you. So in the end, I think Warframe requires a large amount of research to understand its various systems and game mechanics, and either a lot of time or money to get anywhere. To give you an idea, I've spent about 55 hours of the game at this point, and I'm just approaching the point at which I can start to craft my second Warframe. And I'm sure I wasted much time on doing stuff that wasn't really a requirement to progress. And I often deliberately avoid stuff like wikis and FAQs until I'm really stuck, because I want to experience as much as I can from the game. So you could probably get there faster, or you could spend cash or start trading. But believe me when I say the time investment is large. I'm not exaggerating. So it's good. I mean, I would definitely recommend it with those caveats in mind. Go into it knowing those things, and I think you'll get a lot out of it. It has a really devoted fan base, and I think that fan base is devoted largely because of that time investment. Like many players have been playing for years, and they love the game because they feel part of its development. And the following kind of reminds me of the love people used to have for the kind of MMO of choice, and with Plains of Eidolon really expanding the scope of the game, the parallels with MMO is increasingly apt. So my review of Warframe as of April 2018, the game is getting stronger, and who knows what the future holds, and at the very least worth your consideration. And why not? It is free to try anyway.
Moving. Moving.